What series and films mark that era for you? You know, what were you watching during those years?
Huh. Um, I mean, I hate to keep coming back to The Simpsons, but they were absolutely one of the most formative things of my life. Half the time I'm in America and somebody will say something and I'll say like, "Oh yeah, that's that." I'll just know a fact, and it'll be because I learned it on The Simpsons. But I think honestly, the films that were they're not quite spanning the exact length of Potter, but they're really, really close. Were the Toy Story movies, and in fact, the Toy Story movies were. Uh, I mean, obviously, the first one came out in what 96 around then, so I was very, very young. Started Potter a few years later, and then uh, two came out around then, and then the last Toy Story movie came out. Oh, sorry, not the last one. Toy Story 3,
Mm.
at the time I thought maybe the last, came out around the time I think that the last Potter was coming out, and we were all like 19, 20, 21, and we all were in Florida to do stuff for the park, I think, the Harry Potter park that was out there. And so a group of us, and I want to say it was like me, Tom, Matt, Rupert, maybe the Phelps twins, Jade, Tom's then girlfriend. We all went to see Toy Story 3 together, and like Jade definitely still reminds me of the weeping that we were doing. Well, I think we all like it's. I mean, that last scene is such a. So yeah, for those to be the movies that really trace your childhood
Yeah.
to sort of semi-adulthood is really you couldn't wish for a better set for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and the humour really grows with you as well. You know, I know
Yeah.
that there's parts of it that are for children, but there is that kind of it tracks that growth as well.
Absolutely, and then even to the fourth one, watching that, where you go like, oh yeah, no, now it's about like being a parent and having kids that have moved on. Like it's yeah, they're just brilliantly clever films.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
So you spent your time surrounded by one of the greatest British casts of all time. Did you have any idea in your early days about who you were rubbing shoulders with?
No, not at all. Or I did, but only in as much as through my
Mm.
parents' reaction to you are working with these people. That's incredible. So, like Maggie Smith, I walked up to on David Copperfield because I had I heard she was Dame Maggie Smith, and I had a loose knowledge of what that meant. But I walked up to her the first day and was like, "Would you like me to call you Dame?" Which I think is why I endeared myself to her as a 8-year-old or whatever I was, because I think, just made her laugh. But yeah, so I really did. I mean, Richard Harris, no, I was not. I had not seen those kind of films. I loved working with them all, and I loved them, and they were all so kind to me. But it wasn't the kind of that I would have later, or that I've had later about working with Steve Buscemi on stuff where you just go like, oh no, you're. I grew up watching you in stuff like Fargo and Con Air and all these movies. Like I did grow up watching. So yeah, it's interesting. It sort of happened later.
But with those actors, what kind of legacy did they leave over you as an actor? And who would you say had the biggest impact on you? I know that the first time you felt starstruck was working with Gary Oldman.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly because he was one of the first people that like that third film. Gary Oldman, Tim Spall, and David Thewlis came in. I watched a bunch of Mike Leigh movies that they were all in, and was just like, completely not. And also with Gary, like, I'd watched Leon by that point, and seen him in the Firm, the English TV movie about football violence, not the other one, and. Yeah, I think so. He was one of the and Sid and Nancy, of course. Like I was obsessed with punk music, so I'd watch Sid and Nancy, and so I was like, he was. Yeah, that was very, very nerve wracking. But again, he was ended up being so nice to me. So yeah, he had a big influence. But I would also say like I love to like David Thewlis, Imelda Staunton. Who else? There's a bunch of people on those films that are amazing actors that also don't take acting too seriously. Like they know it's not life and death. Like they can do it, and they can do it as well as anyone, but they don't have to in any way, make other people's lives unpleasant around them to get to that point, or or just act like we're doing some incredibly mysterious sacred thing. So yeah, those people. I don't know if I said Michael Gambon, but he should also be in that group. Yeah, just a healthy, like brilliant talent, but a healthy irreverence as well.
Did they ever recommend you kind of telly that you should be watching or films that you should go home and watch?
I bet they did. I'm sure Alan Rickman did. I'm sure. Yeah, definitely Alan would have. And actually, Alfonso Cuarón, the director of the third movie, he made me watch a bunch of European cinema that I probably was not going to as a 14-year-old English kid, which was the 400 Blows, Bicycle Thief. Yeah, it's nice, fun, cheerful stuff.
You've had obviously a very unique childhood that perhaps only kind of Emma and Rupert can truly understand. Was there ever a period where you didn't want to pursue acting?
Not really. I think there were times when I was annoyed by and not knowing how to handle the sort of fame side of it. But there was never a point where I would have wanted to walk away from being on set. Yeah, it's the best place I have found to be, and I feel so lucky to have found it that I will, fight tooth and claw to never be dragged off one.